Let's kick off this explainer with a little thought experiment. I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow morning, but your entire morning routine has been brutally stripped away. You stumble out of bed, you turn the handle on your sink, and absolutely nothing happens. There is no clean, warm water magically appearing at your fingertips. In fact, let's just wipe out all the modern luxuries we take for granted. No squeezing that cool, minty paste onto a plastic brush. No standing under a glorious stream of hot falling water. Erase the soap, the shampoo, the deodorant, the fresh laundry from the dryer. Just gone. Take it all away, leaving literally just you, the weather, fire, some animal hides, and dirt. And living like that? Well, you're immediately faced with a pretty serious question. Did ancient humans smell bad? Now, if we look at this purely through our modern, heavily perfumed lens, the answer is probably a resounding yes. But that's incredibly simplistic. See, our ancestors weren't just wandering around for hundreds of thousands of years like confused, helpless mud goblins. They actually possessed brilliant, highly observant survival tools to manage their hygiene. They weren't the tools we use today. Let's start with the head and mouth. Modern toothpaste is essentially crowd control, not magic. We totally tend to think of it as this magic spell that purifies our teeth, but really it's just crowd control for the hundreds of species of bacteria throwing a party in there. And the story of ancient dental health isn't really about having terrible teeth from a lack of brushing. It's actually all about diet.
This dental shift is absolutely fascinating. Before farming took over, humans ate a super wide variety of foods. We're talking meat, roots, tough nuts, berries, and because of that, they actually had far fewer cavities. Then agriculture hit the scene. We started introducing soft starches, grain-heavy diets, and sticky breads that basically hung around in the mouth like an all-you-can-eat buffet for bacteria. So the exact moment humans became better at making bread, they also became vastly better at making cavities, which honestly is not a great bakery window slogan.
But hey, they weren't entirely defenseless. Long before marketing departments sold us vibrating plastic brushes with built-in timers, ancient humans used chewed, frayed sticks. And if you think about it, a modern toothbrush is practically just a fancy stick with bristles anyway. Traditional chewing sticks, like the miswak, did the exact same thing. They scraped the teeth, cleaned between them, and literally delivered medicinal, plaque-reducing plant chemistry straight to the gums. Pretty clever, right? Moving on to the scent of survival, where body odor acts as biological data. As we move down the body, we really have to tackle the big one, body odor. The uncomfortable truth we often forget is that fresh sweat itself isn't actually the culprit. Fresh sweat is just water and salt. The funky smells we complain about are created later by bacteria breaking down compounds on our skin. And here's the kicker. To our ancestors, those smells were absolutely crucial. Think about it like this. In a world completely devoid of hospitals, expiration dates, or little printed safety labels, your nose was your most advanced, life-saving technology. Smelling rot, bad water, or sickness wasn't some awkward social faux pas to an ancient hunter-gatherer. It was critical data. It answered immediate life-or-death questions like, can I actually eat this? Or is this cave a safe place to sleep tonight? And among all these smells, the dominant scent on an ancient human wouldn't have been BO or perfume. It was campfire smoke. Smoke permeated everything. It got into their hair, their animal hides, their skin, their tools. But to them, a strong campfire smell meant something wonderful. It literally meant life. It meant warmth, safety, hot meal, a nearby community, and maybe most importantly, a place where the darks didn't win. As far as ancient smells go, that's a seriously great deal. Next up, clothes, pests, and bedding. This is all about how they manage the environment right around the body. Let's see how things change when we introduce the concept of a wardrobe. Clothes were, of course, fantastic for keeping the freezing cold and wind at bay. But once we started wearing them all the time, all those smells we just talked about, the sweat, the smoke, the dirt, suddenly had a permanent place to hang out. And with clothes came a brand new, slightly itchy problem. This actually gives us a remarkably strange genetic signal. See, body lice are entirely different from head lice. They specifically lay their eggs in the seams of clothing. So the genetic divergence of body lice from head lice actually acts like a bizarre historical timestamp. It shows us exactly when humans started wearing clothes often enough for these tiny landlords to move in and set up shop. And their awareness of pests definitely extended to where they caught their Z's. Early humans weren't just collapsing in random dusty piles of dirt. They were incredibly strategic about it.
At places like Sabudu Cave in South Africa, which dates back a staggering 77,000 years, archaeologists found bedding made of aromatic plants and fine ash. They were intentionally using these specific materials to repel crawling insects and actively manage pests, making their sleeping spaces way safer.
Which really highlights a massive shift in priorities between then and now. Modern hygiene is super aesthetic. We look in the mirror and ask, do I smell fresh today? But ancient hygiene wasn't about smelling pretty at all. It was a highly calculated, constant effort to reduce risk. They were constantly asking, will this make me sick? Is this going to attract insects? Is this water safe to drink?
And managing those risks was very much a team sport. I mean, we actually have a 3,700-year-old comb from Lachish inscribed with a literal plea. It basically says, please get these bugs out of my hair and beard. Grooming, picking out ticks, and parasite removal wasn't some private bathroom activity you did behind closed doors. It was a time-consuming, absolutely essential social glue that required closeness and built immense trust within the tribe. So, how about washing without modern soap? They were masters at using the world around them. This brings us straight to bathing. Look, even without those slow-motion splashes of perfect blue liquid you see in modern soap commercials, ancient humans had highly effective, intelligent ways to scrub down, adapting perfectly to whatever climate or environment they were in. Long before the very first actual soap was cooked up in ancient Mesopotamia, humans utilized literally everything around them. Sand, that acts as an incredible natural exfoliant. Ash, it easily cuts right through thick animal grease. Clay is basically a sponge that absorbs natural oils perfectly, and then water just carries the whole shebang away. They didn't have our branded bottles, sure, but they intelligently used their environment to get surprisingly clean. But honestly, perhaps their absolute greatest hygiene advantage was something that later city dwellers entirely lost: space. As we've seen from 50,000-year-old Neanderthal sites in Spain, managing waste was critical. Small mobile hunter-gatherer groups had the ultimate trump card. When waste built up or a camp got a bit too gross, they didn't have to just suffer in the squalor of a crowded medieval city. They could literally just pack up their stuff and walk away. Distance was the ultimate sanitation tool. Finally, let's talk about how clean is a culture and flip the historical perspective entirely. To truly wrap our heads around this, we have to turn the whole concept upside down. We need to stop judging our ancestors by our strict modern standards and instead imagine looking at ourselves directly through their ancient eyes. Just think about it for a second. Sure, an ancient human might smell incredibly earthy, incredibly sweaty, and heavily like a campfire to us. But how would we smell to them? With our artificial floral fragrances, fake minty breath, heavy laundry detergents, and aluminum deodorants, a modern person would smell completely insane to an ancient hunter-gatherer. To them, we wouldn't even smell human. We would smell like a terrifying chemical storm wearing pants. Which brings us to our main takeaway for this explainer. Cleanliness is not just the absence of body odor. It is entirely a cultural expectation. Our ancestors were not filthy idiots. They were simply working with different tools and paying profound attention to their environment for thousands of years. So the next time you step out of a steaming hot shower, ask yourself, are you actually clean? Or are you just heavily sealed under layers of modern chemical products that your ancestors would find absolutely bizarre? Think about that and keep exploring.